Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bold and Beautiful today. When the fashion show is over, Brooke loses it. Unforgettable is playing as Ridge and Brooke navigate the Capri shore on their motorboat. They return to the shore after driving through a gap in the rock. Eric and Louisa greet them as they dock. She is told by Ridge that she is a fashion icon. Brooke claims that her floral colors are lovely and that she inspires him. To get ready for the fashion show, they go inside. Telling his son that he witnessed Nick kissing Brooke last night, Eric pulls him away. Reminding him of their past in Italy, he instructs his son to allow Brooke to touch him. He exhorts him to take advantage of the day while it is still possible. When Ridge lumbers over to tell he knows Marone is in Naples, Brooke has already finished applying makeup and is beginning to gather jewelry. At least Nick tries, she says. According to Ridge, he is a snake. She tells him that they have other things to concentrate on and that it's a busy day. Models circulate among the guests' tables as the fashion show begins. Everyone gives a clap. When Brooke begins to walk about, they all clap and gasp. Ridge gives her a smile as she waves to them. The Forresters have meetings with purchasers and the media. They ask for additional images of Brooke and Ridge. Ridge reluctantly wraps his arm around Brooke to take pictures. They proclaim them to be the fashion industry's king and queen. Eric shifts the topic when a reporter inquires about Ridge and Taylor's engagement. Ridge and Brooke are photographed by the media until they get uncomfortable. Ridge inquires about her well-being. "This is not okay," she says. Nick requests that Tomas expedite the boat in the harbor. To go to Capri, he needs it. Nick is given transportation to Louisa's store. When Nick shows up for the gathering, Eric informs him that he is not invited. Ridge tells Brooke that it pains him to see her in such distress as he follows her out onto the balcony. She claims that the reason she is going crazy is because everyone is glad to see them together, but they aren't. She wants to repeatedly tread on her heart and tear it out. He dislikes seeing that. She doesn't want to be there because this is torment for her. She won't be leaving, he assures her. Can't take pain anymore, Brooke's uncomfortable press photos. Before his ex-wife decided she could no longer bear the agony of this vacation with Ridge Forrester, they took a few awkward press pictures. As Unforgettable played, Ridge and Brooke set out on their boat journey together in the opening scene of Wednesday's B&B episode. As soon as Brooke and Ridge arrived in Capri for the fashion show, Eric Forrester informed Ridge that he had witnessed Brooke kissing Nick Marone, and that it appeared to be a serious moment. Ridge pretended that it was good to see a man with initiative, even though she wasn't pleased with Nick visiting Italy and making advances on Brooke. When the fashion show finally started, a number of models appeared on stage decked out in stunning creations. After appearing in the showstopper, Brooke joined Ridge and Eric to take pictures and respond to questions from the media. Since Brooke and Ridge were the fashion industry's king and queen, the media couldn't get enough pictures of them together. But Ridge was asked about his engagement to Taylor Hayes, which caused some embarrassment. Although Nick's boat was still not ready, he managed to get another one and headed to the location of the fashion show. It's clear that Eric wanted to prevent any bonding between Nick and Brooke, as he ran into Nick there and cautioned him away. After posing for all those pictures with Ridge, Brooke became overwhelmed and ran away. Brooke, who was annoyed that everyone was happy to see them together even though they weren't really together, at least not as a couple, was chased after by Ridge. Because Ridge was too obstinate to acknowledge that he still loved her, Brooke lamented that she was sick of their relationship's constant restarts. Brooke wondered whether Ridge enjoyed seeing her in this state after asking why she had traveled to Italy in the first place. When Brooke said she couldn't stay there, Ridge argued he didn't and informed her she couldn't leave. Lee Finnegan, in the meantime, gave unconscious Luna Nozawa an 4 injection to aid in her recovery and reassured her that she wouldn't let her die. Sheila Sharp, on the other hand, was occupied with whining to Deacon Sharp at Il Giardino since Lee had not returned her calls or SMS. Although she hadn't been able to get any information from Lee about where Luna's body had been buried or where her ashes had been strewn, Sheila still desired closure for Luna. When Lee arrived for takeaway, Sheila pressed for those answers, but Lee didn't appear willing to divulge anything. Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan. They navigated the dramatic coastline, the sheer limestone cliffs rising like ancient sentinels, momentarily plunging them into the cool, echoing darkness of a narrow rock crevice before bursting back into the blinding light, the scent of salt and wild rosemary sharp in the air. The thrill of the speed, the breathtaking beauty of the island, the shared history embedded in these very waters, memories of stolen moments and passionate declarations, should have been binding. Instead, the space between them on the plush seat felt vast, charged with unspoken accusations and the heavy weight of betrayal Ridge now carried, a knowledge his father Eric had imparted just moments before their exhilarating, hollow ride. Nick Marone had kissed Brooke. The engine throttled back as they approached the dock, the picture of glamorous arrival, but the carefree facade they presented to Eric and Louisa, waiting with welcoming smiles, was already cracking beneath the surface. Louisa, radiant and effortlessly chic, was effusively praised by Ridge, a true fashion icon, he declared, an endless source of inspiration, and Brooke, forcing brightness into her voice, echoed the sentiment, complimenting Louisa's divine floral palettes, the words tasting like ash. Inside the opulent villa, transformed into a buzzing hive of pre-show anticipation, the air thickened further. Eric, ever the strategist, pulled his son aside, his voice low and urgent. He'd witnessed the kiss, he confirmed, and his advice was stark: use this place, these memories, the tactile history they shared. Let her touch you, Ridge, Eric implored, his gaze intense. Remind her of Italy, of you. Seize the day, son, before it's too late. Before he steals it. Brooke, meanwhile, retreated into the ritual of preparation. Seated before a mirror, she submitted to the makeup artist's deft hands, the layers of foundation and shadow feeling less like enhancement and more like a mask being welded into place. Seeking distraction, she turned to the dazzling array of jewelry laid out, her fingers trembling slightly as they hovered over intricate gold pieces. It was then Ridge found her, his presence a dark storm cloud entering the room, his voice gravelly with suppressed fury as he delivered the blow. I know Marone is in Naples. Brooke's breath hitched, her reflection in the mirror momentarily blurring. Defiance, laced with profound weariness, sparked in her eyes. At least Nick makes an effort, she retorted, the name hanging between them like a challenge. Ridge's face hardened. He's a snake, Brooke, circling. She spun around, the fragile composure threatening to shatter. It's a busy day, Ridge, she pleaded, her voice tight. We have a fashion show to focus on. The buyers, the press. Please. The show itself unfolded like a cruel, beautiful parody. Under strings of fairy lights and the approving gaze of Europe's elite, models glided between tables draped in linen, showcasing the Forrester's latest collection, pieces imbued with the light and texture of Capri, pieces Brooke had poured her soul into. The applause was warm, appreciative. But the true gasp rippled through the crowd when Brooke herself emerged, a vision in a gown that seemed spun from moonlight and seafoam. She strode with practiced elegance, a queen surveying her court, a radiant smile fixed upon her lips, waving graciously at familiar faces. Ridge watched her, a complex mix of pride, possessiveness, and deep-seated pain tightening his jaw into something resembling a smile. She was magnificent, his Brooke, yet she felt galaxies away. The aftermath was a different kind of performance. Flanked by Eric, Ridge, and other family members, Brooke faced the press and buyers. Questions about the collection flowed easily, but the undercurrent shifted palpably when requests came for more pictures of the legendary Ridge and Brooke, a chorus rising for the iconic duo. Reluctance radiated from Ridge, a tangible stiffness as he finally draped his arm around her shoulders. The physical contact, once electric, now felt like a branding iron. The cameras flashed relentlessly, hungry for the myth. The king and queen of fashion, someone declared, the title echoing, a crown of thorns settling onto their heads. Brooke's smile became rigid, her eyes wide and unseeing behind the practiced glamour. When a particularly bold reporter ventured a question about Ridge's engagement to Taylor Hayes, Eric smoothly intervened, steering the conversation back to chiffon and silk, but the damage was done. The focus remained intensely, suffocatingly, on the fractured fairy tale standing stiffly before them. The flashes became an assault, the murmured adoration a form of torture. Ridge, sensing the tremor running through her, leaned in, his voice low against her ear. "Are you all right?" The mask finally slipped. Her eyes, wide with panic and despair, met his. "No, Ridge," she breathed, the words barely audible over the din. This is not all right." It was the crack in the dam. Needing air, needing escape from the gilded cage of admiration, Brooke turned, moving with sudden, desperate purpose through the throng, ignoring murmured questions, heading blindly for the relative sanctuary of the villa's expansive balcony overlooking the moonlit harbor. Ridge followed, a shadow drawn to the epicenter of the coming storm. Below, unseen by them, urgency of a different kind played out. Nick Marone, fueled by a reckless determination, barked at Tomas to hurry the boat. He had to get to Capri, to Brooke. Securing a ride, he sped towards Louise's boutique and the event radiating tension. Back on the balcony, Brooke stood at the railing, her knuckles white where she gripped the cool stone, her back to the glittering party, her shoulders trembling. The Mediterranean stretched before her, vast and dark, mirroring the abyss opening within. Ridge approached, his voice softer now, stripped of its earlier anger, replaced by a bewildered pain. "Seeing you like this, it kills me, Brooke." She whirled around, the dam breaking completely. The carefully constructed facade of the fashion queen dissolved, revealing raw, unvarnished agony. "The problem, Ridge," she cried, her voice cracking, tears spilling freely, tracing paths through her flawless makeup, "is that everyone out there is so blissfully happy to see us together. They see the picture, the fantasy, the king and queen. But we aren't together. We aren't happy. And this pretense, this forced performance, it's driving me insane." Her breath came in ragged gasps, her hands clutched at the bodice of her exquisite gown as if it were strangling her. "I look at them smiling, applauding us, and I want to." She faltered, a sob wrenching from her throat. "I want to rip my heart out, Ridge. Tear it right out of my chest and stomp on it. Over and over and over again until there's nothing left but pulp. Because that's what this feels like. That's what you make me feel." The raw, visceral imagery hung in the air, a shocking testament to her depth of despair. Ridge flinched, the color draining from his face. "Brooke, don't say that. Don't even think that. I hate seeing you in this pain. It is torture," she screamed, the sound raw and desperate against the backdrop of gentle waves and distant party music. "Every smile I faked out there, every time you touched me and it felt like a lie, every flash of a camera capturing a happiness that doesn't exist. I can't breathe in there, Ridge. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be here." She moved towards the balcony door, towards escape, her body trembling with the need to flee. But Ridge stepped into her path, his own eyes reflecting a turmoil of love, anger, and a desperate, possessive fear. His voice, when it came, was low, firm, brooking no argument, the command of a man who could not, would not, relinquish his claim, even amidst the ruins. "You're not leaving." The words were a cage door slamming shut. Brooke stood trapped, not just on the balcony, but in the unbearable space between a past she couldn't reclaim and a future she couldn't face, her magnificent gown a shroud, the glittering harbor below a taunting symbol of freedom just out of reach, her heart a frantic, wounded bird beating against the bars of their impossible, agonizing history. The unforgettable melody seemed to echo mockingly on the salt-tinged breeze, a cruel reminder of everything lost, everything broken, and the devastating, inescapable truth that some things, like the pain etched on Brooke's face as she fell apart under the Mediterranean stars, truly were unforgettable. Brooke Logan's carefully constructed composure finally shattered, leaving her raw, exposed, and utterly unable to endure the excruciating charade any longer, particularly the forced proximity and performative happiness captured in a series of profoundly awkward press photos with Ridge Forrester. Their arrival, soundtracked ironically by the haunting strains of Unforgettable, was less a romantic overture and more a collision course of unresolved history and fresh betrayals, setting the stage for the emotional carnage to come. Eric Forrester, acting with the subtlety of a sledgehammer fueled by his own nostalgic desires, wasted no time upon their landing, immediately ambushing Ridge with the gut-punch revelation of Brooke's kiss with Nick Marone, framed not as a fleeting moment but as something pretty serious. This disclosure, landing like a mortar shell in the fragile ceasefire between Ridge and Brooke, instantly poisoned the wellspring of any potential détente. Ridge's simmering resentment flared. Nick's very presence in Italy felt like an invasion, a deliberate sabotage of whatever fragile equilibrium might have existed, while Brooke's defensive deflection, praising Nick as a man of action, was less a compliment to her ex-husband and more a pointed critique of Ridge's own perceived passivity and emotional unavailability, a verbal gauntlet thrown down amidst the Mediterranean splendor. The fashion show itself unfolded as a dazzling spectacle, a parade of exquisite designs momentarily distracting from the human drama simmering backstage. Yet, the crescendo, Brooke's emergence in the show-stopping gown, served not as a triumph but as the prelude to her public undoing. Stepping off the runway, she was thrust not into the embrace of resolution, but into the glaring spotlight of media scrutiny alongside Ridge and Eric. The press, hungry for the iconic image of the so-called king and queen of fashion reunited, descended with a frenzy of questions and flashing cameras. It was here, in the relentless glare, amidst the forced smiles and proximity demanded by the photographers, that the profound, soul-crushing awkwardness reached its zenith. Every click of the shutter seemed to echo the dissonance between the image being manufactured and the brutal reality. Ridge, visibly stiffening, faced direct questions about his engagement to Taylor Hayes, a stark, public reminder of his commitment elsewhere, a commitment that rendered his current position beside Brooke a grotesque pantomime. Brooke, meanwhile, plastered on a smile that grew increasingly brittle with each flash, each directive to move closer, look at each other, smile like you mean it. The photos captured in those moments weren't just awkward, they were visual artifacts of profound emotional agony, frozen tableaus of a woman being asked to celebrate a love story that lay in ruins at her feet, while her heartbreak was literally being framed for public consumption. The physical proximity to Ridge, the man whose love felt perpetually just out of reach, whose stubborn pride seemed an insurmountable wall, became unbearable under the pretense of unity. Each touch, each shared glance for the cameras, was a fresh wound, a reminder of the intimacy lost and the endless, painful cycle of restarts that led nowhere but back to this place of public humiliation and private despair. This suffocating performance reached its breaking point just as another disruptive force arrived. Nick Marone, having overcome his boat troubles, landed on Capri, drawn magnetically towards Brooke. Eric's immediate, hostile interception, a desperate attempt to pump the brakes on any potential reunion, underscored the high-stakes tension crackling around Brooke. But it was the cumulative weight of the photo session, the relentless fakery, that proved the final straw for Brooke herself. Overwhelmed by the dissonance between the manufactured narrative of a happy reunion and the crushing reality of Ridge's engagement, Taylor's shadow, Eric's manipulations, and her own exhausted heart, she reached her absolute limit. In a moment of pure, unvarnished panic, she bolted. The queen of fashion fled the court she supposedly ruled, unable to breathe within the gilded cage of expectation. Ridge, perhaps startled by the raw authenticity of her flight after the stilted performance, gave chase, finding her not as a petulant diva, but as a woman utterly broken by the relentless cycle of their tortured history. Her words, when she finally stopped running, weren't accusations, but a raw outpouring of exhaustion and profound disillusionment, frustration at the world celebrating a togetherness that was utterly false, bone-deep weariness from the endless, failed attempts to reignite their romance only to be met with the same impenetrable wall of Ridge's stubbornness. A desperate plea for him to simply acknowledge the love she still believed existed beneath his defenses. "Why did I even come here?" she gasped, the question echoing with existential despair, laying bare the futility she felt. "Do you like seeing me like this?" It was the cry of a soul pushed beyond endurance, questioning not just the trip, but her own choices, her own worth in his eyes. Her declaration, "I can't stay here," wasn't about Capri, but about the unbearable emotional landscape she found herself trapped in, the landscape where she was expected to smile for cameras beside the man who refused to fight for her, whose engagement to another woman hung in the air like a shroud over their every interaction. Ridge's reflexive insistence that she can't go was hollow, devoid of the commitment or vulnerability she needed, offering only the empty cage instead of the key to freedom or love. Brooke's breakdown starkly contrasted with the parallel dramas unfolding elsewhere, Lee Finnegan's fierce, determined battle to save Luna Nozawa, injecting hope, or something more mysterious, into her comatose body, a tangible fight against physical oblivion. Meanwhile, Sheila Carter's frantic, entitled demands to Deacon foreclosure regarding Luna's fate, obsessively pestering Lee for burial details or ashes she had no right to, highlighted a different kind of destructive desperation. Yet, both Lee's medical vigil and Sheila's ghoulish quest underscored, in their own ways, the theme of women grappling with forces beyond their control. Brooke's flight was her own battle cry, her refusal to be buried alive in the ashes of a dead relationship or entombed within the false narrative the Forresters and the press demanded. Her awkward photos were the last, grotesque performance before the dam burst. They captured the precise moment the pain became too acute, the pretense too corrosive. Brooke Logan, the resilient bridge who had weathered countless storms for love, finally declared she couldn't take the pain anymore, not through whispered confessions, but through a visceral, public rupture, fleeing the dazzling lights of Capri to escape the suffocating darkness of a love that promised everything but delivered only an exquisite, unending agony, leaving behind only the frozen, awkward images as stark evidence of the beautiful, heartbreaking lie that finally broke her. The unforgettable trip became unforgettable for all the wrong reasons, culminating not in romance rekindled, but in a soul laid bare, screaming silently in 1,000 awkward pixels, declaring an end to the performance.